Our life is full of temptations. A comfortable lazy sofa, a nice glass of wine or cigarette, a new message on your phone that you would like to check so badly, a delicious piece of cake and you feel like a second piece while you want to lose a few kilos. It takes so much effort for many of us to always resist all those temptations and to be consistent, while there are also people who can control themselves well. How do they do that, and does self-discipline make them happier? Today we will talk about psychological aspects of willpower. I'll also give you some tips for better self-control. Self-control or self-discipline or willpower is the ability to put long-term goals ahead of short-term benefits. Years of research indicate that poor self-control is associated with a tendency to unhealthy diet, lack of physical activity, poor school performance, drug abuse, and criminal behavior. In the late 60s to early 70s, a psychological study was conducted that measured a child's ability to delay gratification. The Marshmallow experiment is one of the most famous ones of social science research. The participants were children, most of them around the ages of 4 and 6 years old. So a marshmallow was placed in front of the kids. Researchers said that if they could wait for a short while before eating it, then they will get an extra marshmallow as a reward. Children under the age of 4 were usually unable to resist the temptation for long and consumed the marshmallow quite quickly. Other children were more successful in delaying their gratification, especially when they used strategies to shorten the waiting time. Some of the preschoolers were very creative with this. They made up songs, made funny faces, played under the table so they couldn't see the candy. In some versions of the experiment, the researchers gave the children mental tricks, such as imagine that the marshmallow is just a cloud. It worked. The kids held on longer. This experiment received much attention in mass media and was used to demonstrate the importance of self-control. Many years later, researchers looked at how children fared later in life. They followed each child for more than 40 years. The first conclusion was that delayed gratification had huge benefits. Children perform better at school and have better learning methods. On the other hand, more impulsive children were more likely to become overweight. However, later studies criticized the marshmallow experiment for various issues with its methodology. That showed that there is no point in training children's self-control in order to achieve better school performance. For example, the level of education of the parents appears to be a much better predictor. The more recent findings point to the idea that poor parents try to indulge their children when they can, while more wealthy parents tend to keep their children waiting for bigger efforts. Because such purchases as sweet treats are often the only indulgences that poor families can afford. In such a way, poor parents try to give a small bit of joy more often. Although that does not mean that self-control is unimportant, because if you constantly reach for your smartphone while studying, you will be less well prepared for the exam. Just like losing weight becomes very difficult if you are eating snacks all day long. Yet self-control is more than that. More recent research shows that disciplined people may not necessarily have better impulse control, but they have found effective strategies to avoid temptation. If you realize that your smartphone is constant distraction while studying, you can switch off the device or allow only a few people to contact you. If you want to lose weight, don't go to the supermarket hungry. and always make a shopping list to avoid unhealthy food purchases. Such pre-planned avoidance strategies contribute to predicting a difficult situation and thinking carefully about how to deal with it. Danish researchers concluded in 2012 that resisting has little to do with good self-control. Habits, in particular, play a major role. Dutch research from 2014 supports this conclusion. For example, the habit of eating crisps while watching football has a much greater effect than the ability to effectively resist the temptation of a snack. It is true that people with a lot of self-control are more likely to develop habits that are in line with their long-term goals. Pre-planned routines and habits help to initiate and maintain desired behavior. You can take advantage of a difficult situation to think about what you can change, so you don't have to face these types of situations as often in the future. How fast children eat a marshmallow doesn't just depend on their impulse control. Their worldview is also important, such as the belief that promises are always kept, and that the researcher would indeed return with an extra marshmallow. It is true that good self-control does make us happier, and not just because we achieve our long-term goals. We often feel better about ourselves because we are proud that we are doing things well, and because we feel less frustration after giving in to temptation. The other question is whether too much self-discipline is good. Many of us suffer from this from time to time. Maybe you received an expensive bottle of perfume as a gift, but instead of using it, you leave it until it gets old and smells bad. Or you buy an expensive blouse that you keep for months and even years for a special occasion until you find out that it is no longer fits you. And then you regret that you didn't enjoy it earlier. Interestingly, more self-discipline does not necessarily mean better control over your impulses. It is mainly about developing strategies to avoid being tempted. So, self-control does not necessarily require a lot of willpower. Still, in psychology, we do not see a clear negative impact of too much self-control on well-being and life satisfaction. Those who score high on self-control do not necessarily have a tendency towards compulsive behavior and exaggerated perfectionism. But if you regularly go overboard with your self-control and can no longer use it flexibly, that is obviously going too far. Then you let the small daily pleasures pass you by. Even on special occasions, you miss a dessert, for example, so everything in moderation, in this case too. So, if you want to improve your self-control, the best thing is to avoid critical situations and temptations and develop good habits. For example, turn off the sound of your smartphone and don't buy chips and cookies. To persevere and be happy, you have to reward yourself every now and then. So take a piece of cake on weekends if you were physically active or exercised a lot. You can also make use of the observation effect. Imagine you have a friend who likes sports. Even if you didn't like working out to begin with, constantly watching your friend enjoy it can create a fake intrinsic reward by making you feel like you love working out too. It's called motivational contagion. What gets measured gets managed. So measure your progress, because it helps you to become expert on your own behavior and it keeps you focused on your goals. What can help you is to use a to-do list. It will make you feel more in control when you are feeling overwhelmed. And build positive habits into your routine step by step. Like, you may start your day with a piece of fruit. Always take the stairs instead of the elevator. Meet up with a friend to go for a run every Wednesday. Change your mindset from how to why. Why questions stimulate our long-term thinking and desirability to achieve goals. How questions, on the other hand, bring our mind back to the present and to the feasibility of the goal. If we look from a distance, we see a forest and close-up trees. Distance thus hinders our ability to separate the specific details of a choice. When we want to lose weight, we do it because of the attractive result for us. However, there are also details associated with this task, such as exercising and dropping out favorite foods. And why questions can help us stick to a new habit, such as daily exercise. What we do today affects our actions tomorrow. The best is to focus on a pattern of behavior rather than particular action. The decision to quit smoking involves a decision to change a pattern of behavior. If you choose to smoke one more cigarette today, then you don't see the connection between today's act and the pattern of actions for many days. Not smoking today makes it easier not to smoke tomorrow, and not smoking tomorrow makes it easier not to smoke the day after tomorrow. Another tip is suppressing your impulses and resisting bad habits. This is the hard one, but worth trying. For instance, try to leave your beeping phone in your bag and never eat cookies in front of the television again. And finally, work on your stress management. Practice relaxation techniques, mindfulness or hypnosis, because high levels of stress make it difficult to persevere. And I hope you enjoyed this video. Share in the comments below your own strategies for maintaining self-discipline. In the meantime, don't forget to like, share and subscribe. Thank you for your attention. See you soon.